Coming up on Network Africa, nearly 50 Wagner fighters killed in an ambush in Mali. Ethiopian Prime Minister visits scene of deadly landslide as search and rescue continues. Plus, rain and floods add to the misery of Sudanese displaced by the war. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. We begin in Mali, where dozens of Wagner mercenaries are said to have been killed by jihadis and rebels over the weekend in northern Mali. In what one analyst described as the largest battleground blow to the shadowy Russian group in years, at least 2 others were taken captive. Wasim Nasser, a senior research fellow at the Soufan Center, a security think tank and a Sahel specialist, says approximately 50 Wagner fighters in a convoy were killed in an Al-Qaeda ambush, which was joined by rebels who were in pursuit along the border with Algeria. The mercenaries had been fighting mostly Tuareg rebels alongside Mali's army when their convoy was forced to retreat into jihadi territory and ambushed south of the commune of Tizaounat. Well, Wagner confirmed in a statement that some of its fighters, as well as Malian troops, were killed in the battle with hundreds of militants. However, it did not say how many of its fighters were killed. Mali's army also said it lost 2 soldiers and 20 rebels were killed. Let's get more on this now. Joining us is Ricardo M. He's the VOA's correspondent. He joins us now for more updates. Hello, Ricardo. Thank you so much for your time. What has the Wagner Group, said about this latest attack?
Thank you for having me. Well, what Wagner Group is trying to minimize the impact of this defeat. They are minimizing the numbers. They don't accept this 20. They talking about the 20 soldiers, mercenaries killed. They deny the numbers that we read in social media that tell us about 50 or even 80 people from Wagner was killed in this action. They tell that there are around 20. Of course, it's an information that we cannot contrast because these numbers are not public yet. And there are now ongoing negotiations to try to deal with, have some kind of agreement with these few mercenaries that are still alive. So Wagner so far is trying to minimize the impact that is, of course, a very serious issue for them and for their reputation in the region.
And, a senior commander was also killed. What more do we know about this commander?
Well, this commander was one of the important ones in the regions, in the Mali operation, but he was also active in Ukraine. He was really hated in that country for their operations that he conducted with Wagner when Prigozhin was the leader of this group. So for military intelligence, for Ukraine's this some kind of secondary victory to see him die in Mali. Of course, it's a important loss for Wagner, but I have no doubt that they will find another commanders to move to Mali and also to other African nations.
Now, you have been following the situation, following this story. Tell us how difficult a terrain this place was, where the ambush took place.
Well, the ambush was in a very far away location, and was, if we trust the information that the Wagner Telegram groups was telling about the operation, the group was lost in a sandstorm. So this sandstorm gave to the rebels the opportunity to regroup and to reinforce around 1,000 fighters that come back later and cause this huge defeat in the Wagner. So it's a very far away location, and it's not easy to access, and it's a territory that the rebel forces know much better than the Wagner fighters did.
And finally, Ricardo, how does this loss impact on the group and especially its relations with the Malians? I mean, the Malian governments, which are acting as hosts in this instance.
That is a very interesting question in different levels. One, because it's of course a huge defeat of Wagner in Africa, in the African continent, maybe the biggest that we know so far. So it is a huge defeat, and it have a huge impact in the reputation as a mercenary group. But nevertheless, Wagner have a almost immense capability of economic capability to bring new soldiers. So if by one hand is a defeat, but in other hand, Wagner will do everything to try to show himself as a power in the region. But for the Mali organization, for the Mali government, of course, is they can have lost trust in the capabilities, military capabilities of Wagner to fight to the rebels.
All right, then. Thank you so much. The VOA's Ricardo McKinnon there for us on the situation in Mali. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Well, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has visited the Gulf zone as rescuers and locals continue to search for victims of the massive landslides that hit the area last week. The Prime Minister and his entourage arrived amid ongoing search and rescue operations. At least 257 people are known to have died, even as rescuers continue to uncover bodies days after. It's nearly 10 days after the landslide, and officials, according to the family of victims, are talking about ending the search operation. This operation was supported by local authorities and assisted by the Ethiopian Red Cross Society as well as community members. The landslides happened last week on the 21st to 22nd in the Geze Gofa Wadera zone following heavy rain, and 15,000 people had to be evacuated. According to the UN, southern Ethiopia has been hardest hit by heavy rains and flooding in recent months. During the rainy season, which lasts from July to September, landslides are a common occurrence in the East African nation. In the meantime, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has approved a bailout of $3.4 billion for Ethiopia to support its economic reforms over the next 4 years. The Horn of Africa nation has been struggling with chronic foreign currency shortages and high inflation, largely blamed on the brutal 2-year civil war in Tigray, which ended in 2022. Kristalina Georgieva, the IMF's managing director, says this is a landmark moment for Ethiopia, adding that it is a testament to Ethiopia's strong commitment to transformative reform. Well, news of the deal came after Ethiopia floated its currency, which analysts say was a key step in securing the loan. The announcement saw Ethiopia's currency lose nearly a third of its value against the dollar. The IMF said it would immediately release about $1 billion to help Ethiopia's balance of payments needs and also to provide support to the budget. Let's check in with the war in Sudan. The paramilitary rapid support forces have committed widespread acts of sexual violence in the capital, Khartoum, including gang rape and forced marriages in its war with the armed forces. Now, this is according to a Human Rights Watch report, which says some attacks had also been attributed to the army, which the RSF has battled since April 2023.
The Human Rights Watch is citing accounts of Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces holding women and children in conditions that could amount to sexual slavery and assaulting them in front of their families.
18 of the healthcare providers that we interviewed told us they provided a total of 262 survivors. They provided services to 262 survivors of sexual violence between April 2023 and February 2024, which is the period more or less this report is covering. And while we are providing a number for potentially cases of sexual violence in Khartoum, we also want to highlight that there is also a risk of being double counting, but much more importantly, the fact that this is not about numbers. It's definitely a widespread kind of abuses that is being taking place.
The RSF and the army have previously denied responsibility for abuses during the war, with the RSF saying it would take preventive measures against human rights violations. Many survivors who sought to terminate pregnancies resulting from rape faced barriers in doing so. Men and boys have also been sexually assaulted.
One testimony, for example, were told to us that women and girls are under the threat of rape by RSF and by SAF as well. We are afraid all the time from RSF raids into our homes. We can't sleep from this fear. Daily there is a raid on a house. They try to rape a woman. They do not raid for just looting. They target specific houses because the women are there. They enter and ask for the women and girls in the house. We as women in the area have started going to every house that was raided and try to talk to the women and drink coffee with her and give her some solidarity. I think many of them have been raped, but they will not tell in fear from the stigma. Sometimes the men in the house and women manage to beg the attackers or confront them to end the raid or the rape attempt. It works sometimes, but sometimes it does not work.
Human Rights Watch says reports of sexual violence had risen after the army took control of Omdurman in early 2024. Sudanese activist Nidal Ahmed explains that these women need a lot of support, especially mentally.
Women currently need a lot of psychological support. It is noticeable that rates of suicide are on the rise, especially among women who have been sexually assaulted. In Sudanese society, it is considered a stigma, regardless of whether they are the victims or the perpetrators. So now, women are increasingly committing suicide. So these are all the indicators that require us to take a firm stand.
The RSF has controlled most of Khartoum and its sister cities, Bari and Omdurman, since the opening days of the war, which began as both sides jostled to protect their power under a planned political transition following the overthrow of long-ruling autocrat Omar al-Bashir in 2019. The conflict has stirred up ethnically motivated killings in the western region of Darfur, where the RSF and allied militias are accused of leading a campaign of attacks, including sexual assaults against the Masalit ethnic group.
In the meantime, thousands of people are stranded on the streets of eastern Sudanese city of Kassala as a deluge of rain compounds the suffering of more than 1 million Sudanese who sought refuge in the region from a 15-month-old war. The rainy season that began earlier this month has already damaged shelters, made roads unusable, and will also put millions at risk of waterborne diseases across large areas of the country. This is coming as the number of displaced people within Sudan, currently more than 10 million, continues to tick up as the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, expands its territory in the war with the National Army. Some 765,000 people are sheltering in Gedaref State, and more than 255,000 others are in Kassala, which saw the worst of the rains over the weekend, according to the United Nations. Let's take a break now on the program. Still ahead, a Nigerian artist transforms e-waste into sculptures. Please join us again for more. Welcome back to the program. The Ugandan court has charged 36 opposition supporters with terrorism-related offences after they were deported from neighbouring Kenya, where they had travelled to attend a training course. However, the 36 people, who are members of the Forum for Democratic Change, FDC, one of Uganda's biggest opposition parties, they deny the charges. Their lawyer, Arias Lukwago, said outside the magistrate's court in Kampala that the charges are ridiculous. The case comes amid protests by young people in both Uganda and Kenya against corruption, high taxes, and other grievances. Kenyan authorities detained and then deported the 36 people after they had traveled to the western Kenyan city of Kisumu on July 23 to take part in the leadership and governance training course.
It's nonsensical for one to argue or to contend that they were training in terrorism in the heart of Kisumu city. So whatever they are doing is really reprehensible, it's condemned, or rather it's reprehensible, it's abhorrible, and the kind of treatment they were subjected to. These people were kidnapped from Kenya because the forces from Uganda illegally crossed the borders and carried out an illegal arrest, which in our own assessment and understanding amounted to a kidnap because it was not a lawful arrest. So you cannot kidnap people. I want to sum it up this way. You cannot kidnap people from Kenya and try them in Uganda. It's not possible.
Well, here in Nigeria, the Lagos State government has unveiled the Flavours project, a transformative platform to showcase prowess of youths and local market food vendors in the state. The State Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Systems, Abisola Olusonya, who announced the project during a press conference at the Fresh Food Hub, Idioro Mushin, says the Flavours initiative is in partnership with the private sector to drive the state's food system. Also speaking is the co-chief executive officer, Tantacom Group, Olufunke Adu, who says all participants will be adequately compensated with cash rewards and the champion will go home with 5 million naira cash prize.
This is the pilot project for the market transformation agenda. Many more hubs are actually in the construction phase. But part of what we are trying to showcase here today with the Flavours project is to showcase Lagos as the melting pot of Nigeria, considering that every tribe, every ethnicity, every religion, you have people representing and staying here, living and doing well in Lagos. Also, the idea that we have so many people in the informal sector, you have a lot of market men and women, traders, who otherwise are not, put on the pedestal to showcase that the role they play in our food systems is critical. The aim of this project is to put them in the limelight as being an integral part of how you and I are able to feed and have food in our kitchens.
The whole idea is to actually bring together chefs, upcoming chefs, basically, food enthusiasts, students, people that have flair and love for cooking. From the first, the website we opened by the 1st of August, where people can send in their content. So we want people to be able to come up with content about why they feel that they can partake in this competition. And from the 5th of August, we are going to open, our platform so that people can vote for them. Then by the 9th of August, we'll be picking the 50 best content.
South Africa has won its first gold of the Paris Olympics, with Tanjana Smith winning the 100 meters breaststroke in swimming. The athlete adds this newest title to the 200 meters she won in Tokyo under her maiden name, Shumeka. Monday evening saw much swimming action in the pool at the La Défense Arena during the Paris Games in France. At a news conference after the competition, Smith said she was just focused on her own race and not distracting herself by looking around.
I think for the 100, we all know that it's always a tight race and it really comes down to those last few split seconds. I think when just before we leave, we say good luck, and it's really only an individual sport when you dive in, and it's really just who can swim, who can get to the other side the fastest. But I think we all have our own strategies, our own game plans, or our own ways of racing. Personally, for me, it was just to focus on my own race. So even when I catch myself wanting to look around, I just said, close your eyes. I wanted to learn from Tokyo, and that's what I wanted to do. And I was very happy with the race. I'm very grateful that I ended up touching first, but it wasn't about that. It was just, doing the best I can.
A Mozambique sailor is charting new waters for Africa. As a child, Daisy Ngakile has had the passion of traveling the seas. Now 24 years old, she is at the Olympics, hoping to make all Africans and Black women proud.
Daisy Hakwile was 9 when she first got into a dinghy in Mozambique, but she and her mother were fearful about the safety of the sport and decided she should stop. However, her dad was against the decision.
Me and my mom was scared about the sail and go to water and about weather. So I say to my dad, I want to stop. And my dad say, no, I have to do sailing because it can change my life. Maybe I can have like I can go to school. And I can change my life because we are not rich. And he say, or you go to sailing or you go out of my house. And so, whoa. But I continued to go to sailing, and in 2012, I go to my first championship in Tanzania, and I win.
Hakwile, who turns 24 this week, decided to keep on sailing, and her talent underwater in the children's optimist class was soon recognized by her club in Mozambique's capital, Maputo. She's now competing in the women's single-handed dinghy event at her second Olympic Games after ensuring her berth through World Sailing's Emerging Nations program. Hakwile is one of only few Black athletes represented in Olympic sailing. She says securing the necessary funding is a constant battle.
My dream is to win the Olympic game, but it's not easy. We have to work hard, and we need sponsors to win because it's not easy. In Mozambique, we just have one woman have the medal. So we need more women. We need more medal. So I really want to win.
She became the first athlete from Mozambique to qualify her country for sailing at the Games when she raced in Tokyo. Since then, she had also completed a degree in sports management. Much of her success, she says, is thanks to her South African coach, Rob Holden, whose belief in her talent and unwavering backing has been a driving force among her parents and her sailing club. As one of only a few Black athletes competing in the sailing in the 2024 Games, Hakwile wants others to follow in her wake. By competing in Marseille, she says she'll be representing not only Mozambique, but Africa and all Black women.
Finally, on the program, a Nigerian artist is transforming e-waste into stunning cyberpunk sculptures in Oyo State, a southwest region. Patrick Chidiebube uses discarded electronic products to create art figures, thereby ridding the environment of toxic waste.
In Ibadan, Nigerian artist Patrick Chidiebube is demonstrating his professional skills by breathing life into discarded electronic materials, transforming them into stunning cyberpunk sculptures. Chidiebube is making the sculptures out of keyboard keys, carving out various female figures and handmade faces, standing and hanging in his workshop.
I'm a visual artist practicing in the area of sculpture and installation. I work with upcycled materials such as computer keyboard waste and allied parts like panels to create my sculptures. I create cyberpunk figures with body augmentation that tells the story of our interconnectedness between science and technology and how science and technology has affected our everyday life.
His motivation for this, he says, started when he read that Africa was a dump site for technology.
I started my journey in upcycling, creative upcycling, a few years ago when I read a publication where they stated that Africa is a dump site for technology. when they get their materials, use technology, they dump it in Africa, and we reuse, and it ends in Africa, and it creates a waste that nobody upcycles.
His aim is to rid the continent one step at a time of such toxic waste.
I believe that if I do my own part by upcycling this electronic waste, and another person does their own part by upcycling other waste materials like other polymer waste and metal waste, we can come together to achieve an environment free from toxins, free from pollution, landfill pollution and air pollution.
E-waste is a significant problem for African countries, including Nigeria, which, according to media reports, generated 2.9 million tons of e-waste, or 2.5 kilograms per capita in 2019.
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.